Hello and welcome to another devotion for troubled times. In these COVID-19 pandemic times, we're trying to make sure that we stay focused on God and the hope that we have in Him. I would just remind you that there is a video link that I've kind of kept at the top of our YouTube channel that is from the Bible Project people. And it is their word study on hope. And I just want to remind you that when we talk about a hope from a biblical perspective, we are not talking about a positive optimism. We're not talking about something that we hope will happen, but we have great uncertainty about it. In fact, what we're talking about is the hope that is available to us because of who God is. And He is trustworthy, He is faithful. Therefore, if we are hoping in Him, we have a confident expectation that He will accomplish that which He has promised, that He is able to do that which He has promised that He would do. And so that's the way that we look at hope. It's a confident expectation. And as they bring out in their video, it is not so much waiting for an event to take place as it is waiting for God. We wait expecting that He will show up and that He will deliver us, that He will restore us, that He will heal us. It's that waiting, a confident expectation that God will meet us where we are, that the God who calls Himself Emmanuel, God with us, is actually with us, and He will meet us there. So as we meet on this Saturday, the 25th of April, I just want to remind you that we are waiting for God, that we have a confident expectation, a confident hope that God will meet us in these times and that God wants to lead us somewhere. So we began yesterday by talking about, what's it going to look like to move out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and where are we going to go from here? How are we going to move forward? Because we don't want to just return to the way things were. There were a lot of things that were just comfortable but weren't good for us in the past. And so I think we had drifted into a false security that we had everything in control. And the COVID-19 pandemic has sort of given us an opportunity to wake up and realize, no, we're not in control. But we do know someone who is. We know the God who is in control. And what we want to do is follow Him. You see, the temptation is to always want to go back to the way things were. And I believe absolutely that God wants to lead us forward into something new, something better. And so as we consider this again, I sort of took the passage from the end of the Exodus. It really wasn't the end. It was the end. It was what should have been the end. If the children of Israel had obeyed, they could have gone into the promised land and not all died in the wilderness after 40 years of wandering around out there. But it was at the end of that march there that put them on the shores of the promised land immediately within like a year of having left Egypt. And now I want to go back to the beginning of the Exodus, as it were, and I want to look at Exodus chapter 16, where they have been delivered. And I could go back even further than that. In fact, I may do that on Monday. We'll see. But you'll notice a trend here. And so I want you to see this and see that we are prone to wanting to go back, going back to what's comfortable. But God is always wanting to lead us into a new place. And the new is not comfortable. In fact, I don't know if you have felt this way, but I know I have. Even the routine of the COVID-19, which we've been living with now for about a month, is becoming somewhat comfortable. We've adjusted to the strangeness and to the newness of it. And we've almost become comfortable with this. And I believe God wants to lead us into something more. So from Exodus chapter 16, remember, he's delivered them from the Egyptians. They've crossed the Red Sea. They've seen his mighty power. Now they are in the wilderness proper. In 15, at the end of 15, they came to a source of water that was bitter, and God showed Moses a log to throw in the water that made the water sweet and healthy and whole, and they were able to drink. And then he led them to a place of springs of water. There were 12 springs of water at the place of Elim, and now they are in chapter 16, and they set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the people of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had departed from the land of Egypt. Now, I have to pause there, because every time I get to the wilderness of Sin, my mind just starts racing. I don't know if any of you do this or not, but I'm thinking of the biblical word for sin and all that. That's not what this is. The wilderness of Sin is a wilderness. It's a place in the desert. It's a location. It's not a place of deprivation and disobedience and rebellion, although it becomes that. And the whole congregation of the people of Israel, you'll notice, grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the people of Israel said to them, "Would that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots and ate bread to the full. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." So what's the theme? The recurring theme is, oh, Moses, Aaron, oh God, if we could only go back to the way it was. We had what we wanted. We were comfortable. I don't know if you realize this, though. They wanted to go back to slavery. They wanted to go back to working hard, making bricks and building buildings for the Pharaoh. They wanted to go back to a place where they were powerless and where they had to do exactly what they were told, when they were told, or suffer extreme consequences, instead of going forward into the land of promise, into the land of deliverance, into the land of freedom. And I wonder if some of the reason they wanted to go back is because to go forward is to move into responsibility, to take responsibility for their actions, and to no longer just do what you're told by an overlord, but to live and thrive in a land that has been provided for you, a land where you can make decisions and where you can do business, but you need to do it in obedience to the Father, in obedience to Yahweh, in obedience to the Lord. They become responsible for their actions. Freedom makes us responsible for our actions. And so, as we begin to move forward, I want us to think about what it might mean to move forward into a new future, not just going back to the way things were, but moving forward into more of God's freedom, more of God's blessing, which, yes, does make us more responsible before God. So let's think about this as we move forward, because God is a God of blessing and a God of plenty. And if we will depend on Him, He will lead us to better places than where we have been. He will lead us into new territory, and He will strengthen us, He will deliver us, and He will enable us to be more, not less, than what we've been in the past. As we come back to this theme next week, I'll be talking about some of the things that we've learned in this season, things that we don't want to let go of. And I'll begin talking a little bit more about how do we move forward now into this day and age in a way that is healthy and positive and God honoring. So I look forward to meeting with you next week, and I hope that you join us tomorrow for our live service at 10 o'clock. May God bless you richly.